Yes, fine. Okay. So talking about cash flow and other issues, and cash flow for creative is a very important topic for me personally. And people who have heard me speak often will know why. I always like to start with a personal story, but then there will be no names, because some of the characters in these stories are still existing and are still giving me business as time goes on. So I left I left the job. I left my first paying job after about 3 months because I was being owed salary. And while I was being owed salary, my boss was flying first class. So I thought that wasn't going to work. And so I left to another company, and then we were owing salaries again. And so I went to school. I went to finish law school, came back. The first job I had, after the first 2 months of the fat salary, I was owed again. And these are all creative businesses. And then I left. After that, I went to Virgin Nigeria. That was when Virgin Nigeria was collapsing. And Virgin Nigeria was, at the core of it, a creative business. Because I joke that it's a creative business because there was no business model under which Virgin Nigeria could have succeeded. Costs were high, revenue was low, and the passenger was about to go. And then I left Virgin. I went to Next newspapers. And everybody knows the story of Next. I was owed salary to Next from the first day I stepped in. And in moving through this company, and after Next, I said, you know what, this isn't happening anymore. I'm going to form my business. I owe myself salaries, it's all fine. And so, most of the things that I say, and I started working, I started working when I was 15. I started working with Livia Jonuma in NTA Channel 10. Now, he wasn't the one that owed me salary of lesson memory. And so all these lessons that I learned about creative businesses and the cruciality of cash flow for businesses came from directly observing from some of the mistakes that many of these people had made. Mistakes that I would have made if I hadn't learned this lesson then. Because it's like this whole challenge of creative people owing salaries. I think there's a very simple reason why creative people owe salaries. If you're running a media organization, it's because advertisers give you advice. If you're a newspaper, for instance, advertisers give you advice without paying. You are printing without liquidity. The publisher wants to also live a comfortable life. Somewhere along the way, outflow catches up with inflow, and that's how it happens. And it can happen to any creative business. So it's not acceptable, but it can happen to any creative business. So I will start by also saying this. In 2010, Fast Company named Next Newspapers as one of the 100 most creative companies in the world. In 2011, Next shut down. So, not trying to beat up on Next, but it's a good example because it no longer exists. So, not too many feathers to ruffle. But it kind of captures for me the conundrum for creative business. So you can be an innovative business, you can be creative, you can be amazing, you can be inspiring, but then you might not exist in the next 1 year. Now, again, this presentation I had to do it in a hurried state, so forgive any errors. They're errors of the head, not of the heart. Next. Creativity and next. So one of the challenges I always hear is people say, I dislike to hear that. People say, why hasn't he submitted the design on time? Why is the article not here? They say, he's a creative person. I think that's one of the things that I hear the most that ikes me. If a designer, a video editor, a supplier, it's the idea that creative people cannot work in an atmosphere of discipline, governed by timelines and deadlines, is one of the biggest problems that I think creative businesses face. And that discipline, that lack of discipline ultimately comes to finances. And I always say that the best companies in the world will not exist without all kinds of discipline. And I say, there's a reason why, next slide, there's a reason why people make a lot of noise about 2 years ago, I'm not sure if he still does it, Mark Zuckerberg used to do that thing where he does something different every year that tasks him physically and mentally. So 1 year, everything he ate, every meat he ate, he hunted it himself. The next year he made sure that he wore a tie to work every single day. And I say that's an extremity, but then he's speaking to something that is important for creative people, for a 24-year-old who owns one of the most well talked about businesses in the world. the need to subdue his own desires, his own predilections, so to speak, to something bigger than himself. And I think that sends a lot of messages to all of us as creative people in terms of basic discipline, in terms of basic subduing yourself to something that's bigger than yourself. Next. Now, but even more importantly than all of that Facebook does, no, please go back, is the character of Facebook itself. Now, if anybody has been studying Facebook's business model, especially after the failed IPO last year and trying to find a solution for mobile advertising, we would notice that all that Mark Zuckerberg has been looking for, beyond 1 billion people on Facebook, is how is this thing going to make money for myself, for the investors, for everybody concerned, even as rich as he has become based on stock options. And I was reading this interview and I thought it was interesting that Yuri Milner, who is one of the investors in Facebook, is a Russian investor, had said that what impressed him about Mark, well, when I say Mark, I don't know him of course, was that not just somebody who is a genius and is on a mission to connect the world, but somebody who is constantly thinking about how to monetize the company, constantly thinking, and Facebook seems to have figured it out in its mobile advertising model between last year to early this year. But it's often a miracle when you meet someone who is creative and who also understands the imperative of constantly making money. Next slide. So, I come back to Steve Jobs. Everybody loves, every creative person loves Steve Jobs. Every time we all feel, we're most creative people, we all feel like we know him intimately, because also he straddled the world between fantastic products and fantastic business. Now, so there was this thing, in the whole Facebook Apple human resource organogram. They tried to eschew traditional titles, traditional reporting lines, make it more creative, let the CEO be invested in it, no titles like CMO and CDC. The one place where this structure didn't touch was the office of the Chief Financial Officer. And I say it's very instructive. The one place where all this creativity didn't, and I always say, which is in the next slide. So creativity is good. We don't talk about creative ideas, creative businesses, creative. The only place where creative is the negative word when it comes to creative accounting.
To the other side.
There's a reason why. So, because it's creative accounting. And that's because, look, I always say, your front end might be sexy and dynamic, and jazzed up and etc. and all beautiful. But your back end must be solid and firm. You're not going to publish your quarterly account with Comic Sans. All those things. It's so, all these things, I'm trying to remind us of things that just happen around us that we might ignore, that we just think as pop culture moments, but actually point to how important, for the world's biggest creative institutions, how important the finance, the accounting, the back end is. Next. No, so I said to people, any business, whether it's creative or not, two things are most important: human resource and the finance. The human resource and the finance. People and money. So maybe in 20 years we're no longer dealing with money. But as of now, money is the value that we exchange for anything. So any business, it doesn't matter how creative it is, it doesn't matter how innovative, how exciting it is. People and money are crucial. Now this is a thing where you choose which one is more important. You can actually have a viable business with bad human resources. If you are a hard-driving CEO, or you're able to get people to work for free for you, can't afford, people in your office can't really work hard, can't really experience, you can actually get by with bad human resources. You just have headaches, aches and pains, which are up, but you can survive. But you cannot survive with bad finances. There's no way. They're just not going to exist. There's no getting around it. There's no, we can survive by using gold, or we can survive by depending on barter. There's just no way. And so it comes back to the fact that it's just inevitable that your finances must be in order. You're still going to buy the same newspapers as the person who is selling biscuits. You're still going to buy the same magazines as the person who is producing fiction. Principles remain invaluable. Invaluable is the word, no matter what. Ideas don't rule the world. So I say this all the time. It's counterintuitive, but it's also true. Ideas well managed and well executed rule the world. There's a classic difference between Groupon and Facebook. So the guy in Groupon comes in with Michael's room. I don't know how many of you know the guy, Groupon as a company. And then the guy behind, Andrew Mason, I think is his name. And so everything's sexy in Groupon. I even tried to implement some of his ideas in my company. You know, we had our own small Michael's room, you know, where we could go in when the pressure is becoming too much, and we could lounge, and we could play games, you know, and we could listen to music. And it all sounded like this guy was going to change the world, you know, where he's been fired. The business barely exists. Groupon is trying to find a model. So the problem between Groupon and Facebook is nobody is like, you remember saying that Facebook will exist in the next 100 years. There are companies that you are certain will exist based on research, based on intuition. Facebook, Google, Wikipedia. The need for those companies will always exist in the knowledge economy. But companies like Groupon struggle with even finding out whether their model, what exactly they are selling, while it is seemingly revolutionary, how is it even sustainable? In addition to this, the Groupon CEO appeared to go on a creativity spree. You know, just doing everything differently, almost like creativity for the sake of it. Eventually, reality caught up with him, like it does catch up with every of us who doesn't take the back end as seriously as the front end. So I say any random genius can make money. I can meet Mr. President today, we show him a presentation, he's impressed. He tells me to go and meet the Minister of Communication. I get a contract for 1 year. I make a lot of money. Anybody can do that, any brilliant person. But where we lose it usually is in continuing to make money. Understanding how to manage it. The fact that somebody gave you 100 million naira contract doesn't mean that you have to spend the entire 100 million naira on the next big idea. Understanding that some money needs to be saved for the rainy day. Understanding how to even impress your client so that you don't submit the project so late that the client doesn't call you. The next time the minister doesn't even call you anymore, and you don't see the president every day. So your brilliance is confirmed, endorsed. But then you don't have any job. So anybody can make money. Any of us can, any number of us, even any idiot can make money. So forget any genius. Any idiot can make money. But how do we keep making money? How do you keep beyond your brilliance? What if you fall sick? What if you're unable to draw anymore? If you're a graphics designer, what if you lose your hand? If you are an SMS marketer, what if you lose your voice? What happens when something changes? So not everybody can keep making money. Business, and this is the crux of all our oku. Business is centered on profitability. Inflow over outflow. It sounds so simple, but it's not simple like this. So you see somebody who has a business where he only has one client, and the business is gotten because of his relationship with that client. Fantastic. So the person gets the first amount of money from the client for doing an advert and goes and buys a car, a new car, or goes and takes a loan for income. And especially in the creative industry, I don't even understand. I think many of us are very bold like lions. Because in an industry where an MD can cancel your entire campaign based on a text message from his wife. Say, honey, I saw the logo. I didn't like the blue. That's all. And the MD can come to the office and scream, and all the marketing directors who told you you are doing a great job call you. This is disgusting behavior. I do not understand why your agency. I said, what? I have an email saying great work. In an industry where your work is determined by the emotions of the decision makers, I don't understand why people make an assurance that there will always be money. So you go and take a car loan that you're going to spend the next 2 years paying without knowing where the money for the next 2 years is going to come from. I don't understand that principle. It's very confusing to me. And I see it happening that I don't understand it. There must be a logic behind it that I'm not getting, because I see it so often. And I say it's a problem. And it's not just inflow over outflow. It's inflow of such a velocity that it keeps staying ahead of outflow. I don't know if I'm communicating. I almost want to say praise the Lord. Next. So back to the basics. The things we are talking about is one, savings. Savings for all creative businesses. Savings for when you don't have clients. Savings for when there's an advertising drought. Savings for when your company changes from Zain to Airtel and the corporate communications manager changes. Savings for when you fall sick. Savings for when you need to travel. Savings. So this is like, it's like finances 101. But it's so important that businesses who just don't get it. That you have to save. You have to have money kept somewhere. You have to even have money to execute. When you get that big client to be waiting for and it tells you it's not going to pay you until 3 months. And you have no option but to do that job because that logo on your website is crucial for your business. You need money, liquidity. In our own company, we have 4 different kinds of savings. We have the savings that we use to invest. We have the savings we put back inside the business. We have salary savings. So when any money comes into the company, we remove 10% immediately. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Even if we are dropping debt, 10% must come out into the salary savings. So that before time for salary comes, the salary is already there waiting for us for 3 months at least. And then we have liquidity savings. I mean, I don't know what I say to people, look, the people that are selling Nollywood films in the lab, they don't have vision, mission, or ethical statement. What they have is outflow, inflow, outflow. So I don't care what they call it. Me, I call my own liquidity savings. I'm sure there's an official term for it. And when I do that my training at Harvard, I'm going to find the official term. But me, I know that it's liquidity savings. That savings means when my client, I want client now, that's owing me money for 3 months, I said I'm going to shut down the account. Then he's sending me examples from across the world of how some people do businesses for their clients free of charge. I've never seen that of a human being in my life. God bless him. He's telling me, send me a mail. Look at what these people are doing in Yugoslavia. Ideas, not put an exclamation mark. I went to mail it back and said, it's not your fault. So when you have that kind of a client, now we cannot say the client to go to hell because it's an important client. So what we did yesterday, we went and dipped our hands into our liquidity savings and said, this one is reinvestment inside this Nukuman. It's very liquidity, I don't even know. So savings, customer retention. And that comes to the basic thing about people saying executive person. Submit the work on time. So Steve Baba Eko, who runs Extreme Advice, was saying just a few days ago on Twitter, the best creative idea is useless if it doesn't arrive on time. If it doesn't arrive on time, it's totally useless. I can't just abide it. Nobody can actually. So customer retention leads to more inflow, cost control. The fact that the thing costs 60 naira doesn't mean you have to pay 60 naira. There's something between our company where if you save the company money, you get a percentage of the money you save. So if, for instance, Clark is an example, we used to have a designer who comes to who we put in a hotel to design the magazine. The designers put them in the hotel, design the magazine over a period of time. So one day one of my team members comes to me and said, this one submits on time. So usually this one ends up doing the work of this one. So since this one is committed, why not just take half of the money from this one, add it to the money for this one, save 50% of that money, and sleep in the night, knowing that your work is going to arrive in the morning. And then this one doesn't even like going to the hotel at all. He didn't even know this because I don't think he hates the hotels. So it's a waste of money. Why don't we just give him money for XYZ and save that hotel money? And after that, the money that we saved, we give her 50% of the money that we saved so that she can save us more money in the future. But it's 50%, it's 20%, you don't really. Because I was one of my team members here. Why is my lying to people? So, but it's true. The fact that you can buy it doesn't mean you should squeeze out. You should squeeze out as much fat as you can from every pig that you catch. Just press it. It's like when you get steak and you just and you see the cook putting the spoon on it to press all the fat out. The fact that you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. It's like I always say, the fact that I have money doesn't mean I have to lend you the money. Sometimes I just want to spread the money on my table and say, Julie, you've done a good job. Sometimes I call my bank account manager and say, how much is my savings account? Just to remind myself that things are going well. So yes, it is your money. There's no reason why you should spend it because it is there to be spent. I always tell people, there will always be a latest scam. So if you are watching the latest car today, in 20 years, calm down and eat chocolate. In 20 years, there will be a latest car. You don't have to buy it today. So that's important. Reinvestment in the business. Reinvestment in the business. I remember a classic example. I tried to use examples because 3 years ago, we founded Y Magazine. Some money had just come in. A client had just paid us, but it was Tom. Tom had just paid us some bulk money. And we thought, so we were trying to change offices or buy an official house. And we said, no, why don't you use this to do this magazine we've been trying to do since and create a new stream of revenue. We're like, but we need an office. People keep coming here and abusing us. First, if you come to our office, there's no signboard because I don't have any money to give Lassa. I have none. Our 3 official cars, no painting. I praise the people who do that. They have strategic, people have strategic imperatives in your business. I'm not saying one size fits all. I'm telling you my own story. I didn't say you should not go and pull off your branding. Me, I have no money to pay Lassa because I'm paying 5 taxes: employee, industrial training tax, pension, VAT, personal income tax. I pay everything to the government. I'm not a penny more. So there is no. So we had this problem. My father said, "You to paint." I said, "Yes, it's good to paint them." And that's right. I agree with you. But we can open a huge stream of revenue if we have this magazine that we've been planning for X number of years. And it was a big argument, but I insisted on it. I said, no, this money will go into expanding the business, into creating platforms. A secret I always tell media owners, some of the most successful media companies in our market are people who own platforms. Because there's always a way to bounce back. You don't depend on clients that are fickle. You have your own platform. And that's why our newspapers still survive. That's why our TV stations yet survive. Right? That's my theory at any rate. And I've worked with many of them. So I said we need to create another platform. And that platform has saved us many times. The times when clients owe, because there are so many revenue sources, all tied in together. You know, and even if you're going to meet your client, you know, you're able to even tell him about the benefits of your own job. Of course, without saying too much of it, so he doesn't think you're a scammer. But reinvestment in the business is so important. So I say, the only thing that should dictate your actions as a business person or how much you spend in the club is your P&L. Your profits and losses. Before you pay for that champagne, you call your account officer. How much? So is it from Moe or done something? Or is it Don Perignon they call it? I don't know. You know, so and it's not this thing I said it's a joking way, so we're not all bored here. But this thing I'm saying is quite serious though. Let me tell you about peer pressure in this Lagos. Go and watch Giddy Up and Danny. The thing about peer pressure is, look, so you have your car, it's working. First, you have your car, it's working, everything is fine. And you go to an event, and then your colleague who you know is not making as much money as you know because you know how much his clients can spend. Probably was your client before. I know these people don't pay. And you see him coming in his Jeep, his Range, whatever it is. I know the man in the hotel just dismisses you and focuses on him. You get so annoyed. I'ma buy this car. It happens. Sometimes I've felt and I feel the pressure, so it happens to me even as sometimes you do something and say, I want to show these people that I'm making money. It's like last month Forbes magazine put us on as one of the 30 best entrepreneurs in Africa. And I went to tell somebody was saying, how much does Chude make? And I wanted to just brand all our cars, red, media, so that he would know that things are happening in this Lagos. And I said so. After I finished proving the point to him, and I finished squandering all my savings, and I've satisfied my urges, where do we now go from there? So this is I'm sharing a practical example. This happened. So it's not a distant thing when I say, so it doesn't mean even I don't drink alcohol. I'm not just talking about champagne in the club, I'm talking about real life things. Everybody in your family is contributing money for your uncle's burial. And then your uncle calls you, but wait me in a major town in Lagos. And they say, uncle, it's not like that. I have nothing to prove to you. I don't have that kind of money. You see these things within Lagos, half of them is called barter. You explain it to him. You send your 20,000 to the village for the burial, you continue to row your boat. It's so crucial, especially because our industry is very colorful. It is easy to fall into the temptation, you know. So, your profit and loss account, case studies. I'm going to share a bit of case studies. Names withheld for the first one. The next one, the talented OAP who spends, and it could be any number of people who spends all her money buying jewelry and advertising income can catch up. Next. Next. TV company is promised sponsorship. Next one. TV company is promised sponsorship. They carry the sponsorship that has not yet been signed. Go, spend the money inviting the whole world. Spend this money, borrow money. One day to the event, they say CEO says he's not doing it again. This is a true life story. I shall not name the name. And then the company spends 2 years recovering from that. Cannot pay its obligations, cannot pay its debts, cannot pay salaries. And it's a general story. So there's a classic conundrum for all of us. We have to dream big. We have to do big things. Am I communicating? You have to do big things. But then, so I don't know. All of us will have to answer these questions for ourselves. How do you balance doing big things with ensuring you're not spending money that you might not get back? Remember the Future Awards faced, and I'm going to share an example. Future Awards faced this conundrum 2 years ago when Eco Hotel just finished building the Expo Center. And everybody, of course, was doing events at the Expo Center. Access Bank was sponsors, fantastic guys. But they know how much they gave me. And they know what they asked for. So we went and we did. And everybody said I had to do the event at Eco Hotel. And I said, what? How much is that place? I've never used it. 9 million. And I said, for what? I went to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and said, anyway that says events must hold at Eco Hotel. I could not find it in the Constitution. So I went to my partner and said, you know, forget it. We have to find another venue in this Lagos. I'm not doing it. I don't have, first of all, I don't have the money. Capital. I was paid a very robust salary. You know, next. I was an editor, skyrocketing overheads. And I can talk about Next now because Next has been the subject of plenty of investigation, case studies, books. So these are not my opinions. These are the opinions from books of other people. Skyrocketing overhead, weak cost control. Executive strive first guys, etc. Crippling loans, mortgages, those things in Nigeria that sound good on the first payment, but are usually unsustainable. In fact, they are designed to be unsustainable. You know, very little advertising. So you can see the 5, can I touch it? Yeah. You can see the 5 problems. Outflow. This is the one inflow. And it's weak. So I say to people, the reason why your fellow colleagues are not doing, I don't know how to share this example without it being controversial, so I'll just leave it. The reason why other people are not spending as much money as you are spending is probably because they cannot afford to spend it. So as a business, you know, one of the conceits of creativity, and it's a dangerous conceit because it's also an imperative. For you to produce excellent work, you must first think you are excellent. You must first know that you are excellent. You must first have the confidence in your work. So that's creativity, that's what it's about. For me to sit down and think to myself, I'm going to write this article, I must first think to myself. It's not like working as a receptionist or as a human resource executive. It requires a lot of your ego to go into your work. Now, how do you balance that with learning from other people's mistakes? Not thinking I'm going to come and change this industry. I'm going to change the entire industry. These guys don't know what the hell they are doing. When I come, I'm going to change it. You know, one of the conceits that killed Next. Because the reason why newspapers are paying low salaries sometimes because advertisers don't pay. It's quite simple. The reason why there's no magazine in Nigeria, save for 1 or 2, that pays writers is simply because supply over demand. As a creative person, these are facts for sources. There are a lot of writers, very few demand for them. The market doesn't really appreciate the best writing. 2 lines on the blog can get as much traffic as the best investigation by anybody. It's a demand supply matter. Next. So there's the source, not me. Next. NN24, another beautiful idea, another excellent idea. Fancy offices, beautiful studios, show me the money. Show me the money.
They are problematic.
Problematic what?
There's a guy that worked in NN24. They work for like 2 years and they are almost
show me the money. That's it. And some of the success stories, someone like Steve Shagaya, Konga.com, has had a lot of failed businesses. Had iNollywood, something just admirable creativity, significant spend, muted revenue, for want of a better word. He took all those lessons, and with Konga, he just went right in. No fancy lunches, no just, where is the money? Where are the customers? How do we get them? I'm not going to spend all my money doing a sponsorship where only 5 people out of the people in the crowd are my audience. You know, we are the BRT buses. My customers are going to be on these BRT buses. I need to communicate with them. Konga is a very good example. Next one. He says business is a transaction. At the end of the day, it's a transaction. After all presentations are done, pitches are won, you know, profiles are rates, it's still a transaction. Next. And I always say to people, look at Mnet. They never found a service they didn't charge you for. Even to record the videos now, there's now a new service in East Africa where you can get old movies for a fee. Everything is monetized, as far as I can see, of course, from outside. Everything is monetized, every new product. There's no, okay, so we are doing great, we're beating out all the other competitors, so let's just stick with this business. They're constantly innovating. And not just innovating for the sake of innovating to release more sources of revenue. They're squeezing the steak for all it's worth. They're getting all the fat out. Because so can we make a service out of that? Can this provide money? You know, but here, somebody does one thing, and the person just keeps doing that for 6 years. Just keeps doing that. Doesn't think, okay, how can I own a hospital, people are always asking for Maltina. Should I put a vending machine in the hospital so they can just buy the Maltina straight up? You know? With Mnet, tight workforce maximizing profits. Mnet, as huge as it is, has sometimes as much team members. Of course, there's all the superstructure in South Africa, but there's some Nigerian companies without half as much revenue. You know? The challenge of over-creativity, where our creative work becomes masturbation. We are loving it. It's giving us immense pleasure. But the customer doesn't understand what's going on. The client is just confused. And what is all this? Okay, approve. It looks good. It looks abstract. You know, when the client says that your job looks abstract, be very careful. He's just looking for a way not to hurt your feelings. It's abstract. You know, that is of no use because it is above budget. Beyond deadline, but it's simply not even functional. Next slide. Lessons from Steve Jobs. Look for one of the biggest miracles is Steve Jobs' second coming, because the Steve Jobs we are all praising now is Steve Jobs 2.0. Was when he came back to Apple. He went to the store, the store was filled with products that had not moved out. They were creating all these fantastic products, they had so much inventory. Where is the supply chain? Where are the customers? Why isn't it going out of this place? Why are we producing what nobody is buying? One of the things Steve Jobs did was to slash inventory by, I think, more than 70%. I was looking for the exact facts. But if you read his book, you will see that. You know, and that's one of the things. So Apple's profit depends on these efficiencies as much as great sales or reviews. Every product or part stuck in a warehouse is a part that costs money instead of making it. It was Apple's inability to get part of the business right in the mid-90s that cost it so much as a product of product stagnation and blah blah blah. Next. I wish I had tissue. Joshua. Go and find a job. You must market. Steve Jobs was a huge, relentless marketer for investors, for etc. I'm not talking about, when I say market, I'm not talking about marketing communication. I'm not talking about advertising and press release. I'm talking about marketing, about Nemego. I don't know if I'm communicating, guys. Marketing. Steve Jobs was a good marketer. He would march to somebody on the road. He would march into offices and knock on doors. If you don't have that capacity, find a partner who does. Here I am. No, not me. That's how I did my own business. My partner can walk into any room. Let me tell you an example. The other day, we were just in front of a cool hotel. They were trying to get in contact with Hakim Bello Osagi. So I saw his wife, Mima, who I know. But I've never met Hakim, I've never seen him. I said, that's Hakim Bello Osagi. He said, yes, I'm going to do. He said, God will provide opportunity. He said, before I could, as I was talking, before I could look back, people had already collected Hakim Bello's 2 emails. and one phone number, and we have a presentation. This was 3 weeks ago. Please don't tweet this. I'm telling you, I don't have that skill. I'd rather go and prepare a fine presentation for King Bello Osagi, and I tell this PA to please get me an appointment that she will get for me in 6 months. By that time, you might have already invested in Chocolate City. And I'm there waiting. Marketing is very important. You must continuously bring money into the business. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Of course, ethically. But you must continuously bring money into the business as a creative, as a biscuit manufacturer, as British Council. Immediately, so there's 1, marketing, 2, management, disciplining your finances, what I'm talking about all day. 3, debt management. Debt kills. Kill debt. You know, the creative visionary in this finance life, entrepreneurs must have their 2 eyes focused on the sky, but their 2 feet firmly on the ground. Thank you very much.